We are back for round 2 with $500,000 a year hair extensionist Tania Crawford. Tania is one of my best friends, and let me tell you, she is an absolute rock star in the hair extension industry. You loved our first conversation so much that we are bringing Tania back for this part 2. This is a valuable and to-the-point conversation about what it really takes to get to the very top of the industry. Plus, Tania has a very special announcement at the end of our conversation. I hope you enjoy this. Let's get to it. $50K Tania in the house again. Welcome back to the podcast.
Whoop, whoop.
She's
Hi.
back. We are in person in Charlotte. Very excited here for the Rich Stylist meetup and to record number 2 of our podcast together.
Totally. I'm so excited to be here.
Our podcast together was a fan favorite because let me tell you, when we talked on our podcast about how you bring in $50K a month from hair extensions, people had never heard of that before. Maybe some people have.
That's crazy.
But majority of people haven't heard of that before. Mm-hmm. Tell me your thoughts on that whole situation.
I wish more people knew that that was a possibility. I mean, our industry is so amazing. There are so many things you can do and so many ladders you can climb. And I think people don't really share or talk money. People are scared of talking about it. It's really important to know that there are people that take this business serious. This is not a hobby. This is a career. And you can be your own CEO and you can determine how much money you're going to make.
I love that.
Yes.
I love building your hair extension business as a CEO, keeping the business and your money on the top of your mind.
Absolutely.
Did you have that vision from the very beginning?
Absolutely. I always knew I was going to be in the beauty industry. I just didn't know how to fully branch out. I mean, I come from a family where everyone has a degree. And I'm the first one that didn't follow through with that. I dropped out of pursuing that. And so I think I had to prove really hard that this was not just a fluke.
How did your family react, or how did people around you react to that?
Oh, my mom was so mad. She was like, this is not a good idea. You need to get a college education. Surprisingly, my dad, even though our relationship is kind of rocky, he was super supportive of it. He said it's artistic. He liked that it was creative.
Sure.
He is a big believer you follow through with what you want to do, because he didn't follow through with his degree either. He kind of went on his own and did the entrepreneur thing and was very successful at it. And so I think he could see himself probably in me when I did that.
Did you expect to make $50K a month? Looking back, did you think $50K would be in your future as a hairstylist?
Absolutely. I definitely had a visual in front of me. And
nice.
Definitely, no, it was, I knew it was a possibility. I know now,
Sure.
as well, it's reachable and you can do even more than that. But I think it's important that if you want something, you really have to visualize it. There's no limit. Mm-hmm. And, people doubted me when I started out. They didn't think this was a good idea. For instance, I had somebody tell me, this is not a career. This is a hobby. Well,
that hair is a hobby. It can't be a career.
Exactly. So I'm like, how does it feel like your hobby makes you over $500K a year?
Yeah. I'd say that's a career.
That's definitely a career.
I think that's a career, Tania. You got you a career.
I think so too. Mission accomplished, you know?
That's awesome.
But I think there's just such a stigma behind this career choice.
Sure.
People don't really know, and it's because of, the people that don't take this seriously, kitchen, beautician, hair, not that there's anything wrong with that. But I want to go into an office and fulfill my job.
Absolutely.
I take it seriously.
Tell me about how you got started. What was the journey like for you when you first started doing hair? Mm-hmm. Bring us up to speed sort of until now.
Yeah, so I actually just had relocated from North Carolina to Florida. I was an assistant there and moved to Florida and had to completely rebuild my, clientele and everything. And it was hard because I was also going through a divorce. Mm-hmm. I was working 3 jobs. And
what kind of jobs were you working?
So I worked weddings
yep.
for another company. I worked for Estee Lauder company. I worked for MAC and also did hair behind the chair. So I worked a lot of hours, and I had to because I was so afraid of not being able to pay my bills, because when you first start out, I mean, you don't make any money.
Sure.
You know, like you have to completely rebuild, and you have to get the consistency in your pay. If nobody shows up, you're not going to get paid.
Of course.
So, I mean, I lived super below my means. I lived with roommates. I lived in this like dingy little pink house, you know.
It sounds kind of cute, actually.
I mean, it had its charm, you know. It was interesting.
Sure.
And I couldn't wait to get out of there. Okay.
Fair.
So, lived super below my means and kept my bills actually under $1,000.
Okay.
Including groceries. Like, I lived super below my means. And even like when I started really having money come in, I still kind of lived like that. Just because I wanted to reinvest, and I knew like offering extensions at a higher level of luxury was going to be the end goal. So
when did you start bringing extensions into the business?
So I started bringing extension in pretty early on in my career. I started off with tapes because that was the fastest and easiest accessible certification you could do. And then when I had enough money to pay for, you know, like Great Lengths, that's what I first started off with. Then I did that because that's what I had always worn, so I knew I wanted to offer that.
Sure.
And definitely put me in a different type of category as a hair extensionist.
What hair brands do you work with now?
So I work with Great Lengths, Tiffany Scott, Muse, also Platinum Seamless. I work with a couple different ones depending on the hair texture and lifestyle of the client.
When did you get to a point where you were like, okay, hey, this is pretty lucrative. I'm making much more than just to cover my bills and a little bit more. Tell me some of the stepping stones to getting there. What was that like? What did it feel like in the process?
I think when I had my first weekly $2,500 check, I was a commission stylist. And so my goal was like, if I can make $2,500 consistently over a course of 8 weeks, then it's time to go out on my own.
Did you give yourself like quarterly goals or half year or yearly?
Oh, yes. My goal always is to make more.
Sure.
You know, so
you always want to grow.
Exactly.
Why wouldn't you want to keep growing?
That's right. And so definitely I set myself monthly, daily, weekly, quarterly, and yearly goals. And I do check-ins with that all the time and hold myself accountable. I think self-discipline is a big factor in being successful.
Absolutely. Now, I believe we mentioned on our last podcast, you said that one of the things earlier on in your career is that you chose to, again, choose self-discipline. And a lot of times when people your age were wanting to go out or I'm not going to go into the salon today, whatever it may be, you were still showing up for your business, educating yourself.
Yes. I showed up when other stylists didn't want to show up. I mean, I still show up at 6 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. to do clients' hair.
And that's very rare.
It's very rare.
You know it, I know it. Very, very rare.
Very rare. But those are the clients that are my ideal client. They are all entrepreneurs. They don't have time to be there at 11 o'clock when they're running a successful business. It's either before your normal time or after, you know?
That's a really good point. So, which leads me to the question, what are some of the mistakes that most stylists make in their business?
First one, which is the most important one, is overhead. People spend too much on their overhead. It really should not be more than 20% of the total. And we're all guilty of this. We are selling, so we're also excellent buyers when people want to sell us things.
Sure.
Okay, so we purchase too much inventory for what we actually need, and then you sit on it and you never end up using it. You really should get what you actually need and not be falling into the trap of just being a consumer. Like, you're here to make money. Like, get what you need.
Absolutely.
And charge your client accordingly for what you're using on them. I mean, we all got to eat.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, you can still love and care for your clients.
Yes.
But it can still be a business transaction as well.
Totally.
What are your thoughts on that? Because a lot of people, I hear stylists say, well, I feel bad charging my clients more because I love them. You've heard the story.
I mean, yes, but they should love you enough that they want you to live life without having to worry of how to pay your mortgage, how to further your career. I'm sure they're not going to question their plastic surgeon or their doctor why they're charging what they're charging. They're going to have to pay it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, can you give us an example? You say keep your overhead, did you say 20%, at 20% maximum?
Yes.
Give us an example of that.
So let's just talk about a basic color, which brings me actually into our next problem that I think is made a lot. Basic color. So there's being taught a lot, like doing a set price for certain type of looks.
Right.
Like you have a transformative service, you tell your client it's $400, includes your gloss, everything, blah, blah, blah.
It's very trending in the industry.
It's very trending in the industry. You're kind of being put in a box because this is what your clients expects, and they're going to expect to look a certain way.
Oh, yeah.
Your client starts sitting in your chair and you're like, oops, I have to use actually 10 bowls of lightener today. Well, there you go. Your overhead already is exceeding your $80 of a $400 service.
Sure. And a scoop of lightener counts.
It does.
Because it does add up over a year, 2
It
years,
does.
5 years.
It does. And everything's getting more expensive. So yes, you can have a set price, but there has to be a product charge in there that you calculate in. If it goes over a certain amount, then yes, charge accordingly, because otherwise you're really not making $320.
Right. No.
You're making maybe $150, and you worked 6 hours, 4 hours on this person, and you're like, oh my gosh, I really only made this today. Like, I'm losing money.
Sure. Or you get to the end of the month or the end of the year and you're like, wow, I felt like I worked so hard, or I felt like I did this.
Totally.
And you did. I was in the salon this many hours. But then when you look at what you have left over, you may be finding yourself going, how?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's because it adds up.
Because here's the thing, you not only have 20% overhead, you're also having taxes on there. So if you're paying, I mean, depending on your state, I can only talk for Florida. If you're paying your 30% taxes on top of that, I mean, you're giving away 50% ultimately. So if your overhead is 30, 40, 50%, you're only ending up with 20% total. And this is something I think, and not try to mock any other method of teaching people how to achieve 100K behind the chair. It's like you're teaching these girls and guys that working 3 days a week, doing 2 clients a day, or 1 client a day, charging $500 is going to push you to 100K behind the chair. It is not. Your overhead, your taxes, you're maybe walking away, if you're lucky, with $65,000. And it puts you in a box. You're never learning how to upsell, how to make your client experience better to get to the next level. You're kind of stagnant, you know? So that's another big thing. I feel like it's teaching, putting in the least amount of effort and getting the most payout, but really you're not getting the most payout.
You're not getting nearly as much as you think you are, or it
Exactly.
feels like you are that day.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
you're not making the $500.
Exactly. Actually. Yes. So I think that's like a big thing in our industry. I mean, being a multiple 6-figure stylist takes way more than seeing 1 client a day for $500.
Sure. Yes. Unless you're doing, again, like you do.
Yeah.
Incredible transformations.
Yeah.
You do. You have a certain process that you do as well.
Yes.
But you also have sometimes like 1 client, but it's like a major situation. It's not a $500 client.
No.
We'll add another 0.
Yes.
Yeah.
At least.
Yes.
So, definitely.
Yeah.
And even then, sometimes I can see 2 clients a day.
Sure. Going back to overhead, tell us about your overhead. Do you have an assistant? What's your salon situation?
So I don't have an assistant. I used to. But a lot of time that takes more time, more micromanaging. It can slow you down at times. And I rent a chair. I don't own my own salon. So big misconception in the industry that you have to own a salon.
Yeah, so let's break that down a little bit, because I often find, and again, there's nothing wrong with it. The cool thing about the beauty industry and the hair industry is that you can literally do anything you want.
Totally.
Anything. So often we see stylists that, okay, I graduated school. I'm going to be an assistant. An assistant leads to a stylist. And then I'm I'm a stylist. Let me get my first assistant.
Totally.
I'm busy. Let me get my second assistant. Sometimes it's my third assistant because I'm double or triple booked. And then I'm so busy, I need to open my own salon. I have my own salon. Maybe I need to open another salon. That, I would say, is more the traditional path. Would you agree?
I would agree with that.
But there's so many other pathways to success, and to each their own. But I think it's very interesting how you have built your unique path to success, and not just any level of success, $500,000 a year success. And you're still only getting started.
Totally.
Yeah. So why did thinking differently or creating your own unique path in the industry make sense to you?
Because we're all so unique, and there's so many different clients and so many paths for everyone. I feel like traditional, that might have worked years ago, but the industry is so changing all the time that I think you kind of have to see what works the best for you. I don't want to micromanage multiple people. I mean, I can, but ultimately I don't want to. I think for my peace in my mind, I think me doing my own thing, maybe have an assistant here and there, and maybe having one more person for me, working for me in the future. I mean, that could be a possibility, but I want to focus more on education, coaching, working by myself.
She's like working by myself.
Traveling when I want to, doing fun things like this, which ultimately is work as well. But because we love what we do, it feels awesome.
And it's different, and it's flexible, and it's still a freedom lifestyle, which you and I both value very much.
And this is what is so fun in our industry, is making connections like this. And you know this, a lot of stylists are not like this. They're kind of by themselves, like seeing what other people do. And I think the beauty of this is people are being less like that. There is no gatekeeping anymore. And that's
There's certainly a lot less.
Totally. And that's why I think, Rich Stylist Academy has been so successful, because you created a beautiful community of stylists that all are like-minded, and I think that is huge, and we need more of that.
Thank you. The community is literally the greatest thing ever. Like,
oh, I love it.
The people, like, it is just the coolest, no gatekeeping, loud, cheering each other on type of community that I've ever experienced.
I agree.
Now, so speaking of that, you first became a part of our community when we first started.
I know. Yeah. So exciting. In 2019.
Yeah. Rich Stylist 2019. And we are in the end of 2023 right now.
Yes. So I think I'm like one of the founding members. Yeah. And I've been in it ever since. Yeah. And it's super fun. I feel like it's amazing how you guys help others and seeing them grow and having their success stories. And I mean, it definitely helped me, when I joined.
What kind of sparked your interest, or what were you looking for at the time? Because you were already making a lot of money and knew how to do technical. So what was it for you that you were looking for that sparked your interest, I would say?
So definitely I was at a point where I either had to work less or make a lot more money, because it felt like I was working a lot and not seeing the growth because of, taxes, all that stuff. And I was like, I really want to focus on restructuring my business and kind of doing some rebranding and making it more tailored to what my ideal client is and catering to that client. And so when I found out about Rich Stylist, I was like, this sounds like something that I really want to do. And so I joined, and I thought it was the best thing ever. I feel like I've taken so many different courses and classes, and it definitely doesn't match up to what you guys have.
We had a great time in Vegas too
We had
a retreat in, when was that? It was 2020, January of 2020, right before the pandemic.
Yes.
A handful of us with our mastermind retreat were in Vegas, and has that been it
was right before COVID,
now.
So 4 years. That was the last trip I took before COVID, and it was so amazing. And I still talk to the girls that were at that mastermind retreat. It was awesome.
And some of them are here today for the Charlotte meetup.
Totally.
So it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I love it. So one of the things I've taken, like I mentioned, a bunch of other education too. And like one thing I noticed, you have all these lifetime support groups, but there is no real support in there. Like it's kind of like you're in it and nobody ever posts, or, you know, like you don't feel like they're showing up for you. Like
it says lifetime, but it's like a few videos that you could watch the video for the next 10 years.
Or you post one time and it takes 5 days for somebody to answer. You know, I feel like that is so different about your community. Like people really show up, and once you're in it, you're in it. And you know, there is accountability. You can rely on an answer in a timely manner if you have a question. And I feel like the engagement in the group is just awesome.
Yeah, I would agree.
The problem with education, as you know, is you see so many educators come and go, and then you take a class and then they're gone. Like the next month, everyone's just in for the quick bucks. And I feel like you guys have been there for 5 years consistently. Actually, like before that, but with this specific program, and you're obviously here to stay because the group keeps growing, and it's just amazing.
When we say lifetime mentorship, we mean it.
Well, that's good.
Yes.
Because most people don't mean that. So we love a good accountability.
Yeah.
So you guys listen. She's here forever.
You cannot get rid of me. You cannot get rid of me.
Yes, but it's also inspiring, and I think it inspires me. So I think that's awesome.
Well, likewise, and that's one of the reasons that, okay, you heard it here first. Tania is now, I'm calling her our 50K coach inside of Rich Stylist.
Super exciting.
Yes. Tania is now coaching First Call next week inside of the community and helping extensionists with their money, their finances. Ask Tania anything. It's going to be epic. I'm so excited.
I'm super excited too. And I mean, honestly, both of you, me and Alex, we realized after the last podcast that, I mean, people really need help in like business structure and finance, especially in the hair world. You just don't get that taught in school.
Well, because even in cosmetology schools, I think that people still look at it as, well, it's just a beauty thing.
Yeah.
It's still sort of just a hobby. I think it's ingrained maybe in some of the educators in school. Like they still don't own it as like this is an incredible career where you can have a limitless type of income.
Totally. And I think, you know, a lot of that is changing. So I think it's great that people are actually taking their finances in the beauty world seriously, and they don't look at it as like a fast cash business.
Absolutely.
And you can show up tomorrow at work, you make that money back. Like we don't look at it that way anymore. We look at like creating multiple streams of income. We're looking at retirement, you know, growing. So that's really exciting. And so I'm excited to be in the group showing up. And
well, we're so excited and honored to have you speak on all those topics that you implement, you work on, and to share that with the community even more closely is going to be so real. We can't wait. But let's talk about something really cool that you have coming up as well. A new annual type of thing.
Yes, which will actually go hand in hand with this because you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
A little bit of me here and a little bit of me there.
Right.
And it can be combined. So planning a huge retreat. It's completely transformative in January. And ever since I've taken your retreat, I've been wanting to do one. And this one's definitely more business oriented. People are going to learn my signature $1,500 makeover that takes 3 hours. So potential of making $4,500 and plus in a day, seeing 3 clients. But a lot of it is business focus and managing your finances, learning your overhead, realizing the power of a consultation, realizing who your client is that sits in front of you. I think it's like something very unique that I come up with, and I know you guys are going to be there too.
Yes, we will be.
Definitely super excited about that.
I'm looking forward to your retreat so much. And one of the things I wanted to share with you, because I love you so much as a colleague, as a bestie, is that you inspire me so much to continue to want to grow. I admire your self-discipline, your commitment to the industry, your commitment to your business, because it is something that's rare to find, really across all industries, but especially in the hair industry because it has a little bit of a stigma. But I have always loved and admired you so much for how you've taken it like so damn seriously from the very beginning. And it makes me want to do the same in Rich Stylist and across our businesses and such. So it's so important to have a friend that inspires you to keep going and to keep building, and you definitely do that. And I love your lifestyle, and I love you.
Well, don't we
We're
love
sisters.
it all?
Yes.
Well, I feel like we truly weren't meant to meet each other because, I mean, we are besties.
Yeah.
And I feel like so inspired by you too, because I feel you truly do what you say and you show up. And I think that's very rare because people will just make promises and they don't follow through. Like, you actually follow through. And I love that we inspire each other.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming back on the podcast for
Of course,
number
I wouldn't
2.
miss
And
it.
I'm sure we'll do more podcasts together in the future.
Every week.
Every week. And tune in to our ASMR. Making money. I'm excited for your coachings, your ongoing coachings inside of Rich Stylist, all about money and finances.
Love
and
it.
Really looking forward to your annual January retreat coming up pretty soon after the holidays.
I know. It's very soon. It's becoming very serious.
So come
which
hang
has
with
always
us.
Been.
We'll see you there. I hope you loved this conversation with Tania. And if you want to take a look at Tania's luxury extensionist retreat that's happening in Florida, January 2024, send Tania a direct message on Instagram. Her Instagram details are going to be in our show notes below. And tell her that you heard about her retreat on the Rich Stylist podcast. We would love to see you at her retreat and also inside of Rich Stylist Academy. We love you, and we are wholeheartedly committed to supporting you and your hair extension business. We will see you in the next episode.